That is a valid question, along with making it personal. What do you do? How are you concerned with social justice within your sphere, within your life, within your community, within your family, and within your church? And so I would like to frame this lecture around a similar theme, which derives from a conference I attended a few years back. And I would like to center this theme around holy rage and holy hope. Holy rage and holy hope.
Help us.
And so allow me to be the first to say that I am not the first to pose these series of questions. That unfortunately, horrid circumstances around violence against black and brown bodies by the indecent and deplorable behavior of those who embrace and embody supremacy as an ethic to live by has caused some to be in search of just strategies and just solutions for social transformation. They are looking for a way to handle issues when issues of racial injustice and gender injustice arise in our lives. And so in an effort to identify an entity that would aid in a fight for social justice, many gravitated towards the black church as it has historically been the epicenter for black freedom struggle. And so the black church, which was known as the hush harbor in its infancy, due to the fact that enslaved Africans had to gather in secret to practice their religious beliefs, would not be able to contain the social movements that were brewing in their camp meeting. And so the old gospel classic by Joe LaDon and the Mighty Clouds of Joy, there's gonna be a meeting tonight, old-fashioned meeting tonight, meeting on the old campground. There's gonna be a meeting tonight, old-fashioned meeting tonight, meeting on the old campground. How many of y'all heard that? You've heard that song before. There's going to be a meeting. And what I discovered in listening to this song and reflecting on this song is that there was, yes indeed, a campground meeting on the old campground. And I'm sure that there were moments of rejoicing and moments of praise and moments of shouting as they sought mental respite and relief from the physical bondage they were experiencing. Yet they did not just come for a good time, as they still realized the complexity of their positionality. They understood that they understood that while they were in praise and while they were in worship and while they could rejoice, they also realized their position was still enslaved. They realized that their position was still enslaved. And so real and raw emotions traveled with them to the camp meeting. And all who gathered lived in a constant state of trauma due to systems and structures that were intentionally created to never honor their humanity. And so if you thought the camp meeting was simply just a Holy Ghost good time of shouting and dancing, maybe we should lean in just a little bit into the fact that there existed a myriad of emotions that took place, of what their hearts had felt, what their eyes had seen from the plantation, what their ears heard. There was a myriad of thoughts and feelings going through their minds and going through their bodies. And our ancestors experienced circumstances that made their blood boil in rage. Now, rage. These camp meetings served as planning sessions for revolt, for rebellion, and for revolution. They did not just serve as a place of spiritual connection and spiritual respite and spiritual rejuvenation, but it also was a planning meeting. It was a strategy meeting of how we are going to look out and how we are going to manage and how we are going to strategize against the oppression that we are experiencing. And so when I see a government that is attempting to roll back on block and block every piece of progressive legislation that has been in existence in these yet to be United States, my blood boils in rage. To watch a Supreme Court overturn affirmative action, to also watch a Supreme Court overturn a 50-year precedent of women's rights, to experience states like Florida defund diversity, equity, and inclusion programs from state colleges and universities, to experience the desensitized and money-hungry legislature like that in Tennessee do nothing about gun control after various mass shootings in this country, to watch the displacement of many black and brown communities due to the affordable housing crisis, which is driven by many big developers taking over and gentrifying historic communities, to experience state governments adopting book banning initiatives to keep our children from reading books that carry the truth about the ugliness of the U.S. history, and to also look out and to experience and see and watch denominations like the Southern Baptist Convention, who has historically not been pro-black in many of their stances, but doubled down on their sexist and patriarchal and misogynistic theology against women in ministry. And so the list can go on and on and on and on. And my blood boils, and the question still remains, what does the church have to say about matters of social justice? Where do we stand? What are we going to do? And so Martin Luther King once stated, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. That we don't have a choice as a church to not say anything. That it is our responsibility as a church, as a convention, as a body of believers to speak about these things and to do something about these things. And one can only ask where the black church is concerning matters of social justice when there is absence or silence. And because I believe that the black church is not absent and is very much still a living and breathing organism, maybe we have been too quiet, too silent about the injustices plaguing our own people. Maybe our congregations are shrinking or have shrunk because we have been too silent in addressing the systems of oppression that harm and dehumanize folks in our congregations. Maybe our relevance as a church has dwindled because we because we have been too silent about the violence that is impacting our communities. Maybe our congregations seem disengaged in ministry because we are not engaging social justice as a top priority when we're thinking about the mission of the church. And so this is a part of holy rage, a holy rage. So I want where our churches, the last time our churches had something to say about injustice, about racial injustice, about gender injustice? When was the last time we were not arguing over a business meeting or arguing over a church conference, but we were really enraged, not about those things, but about what's going on right in our communities? When was the last time we were enraged about those things and set aside time to deal with those issues? And so before you come after me, I do not want you to fall under the assumption that by rage I am insinuating or condoning violence or harm. The rage I'm referring to tonight is not that which is defined by the standards of society, but it is a rage that is holy, and it is a rage that is authentic to the person of Jesus. Yeah. Jesus, holy rage. Holy rage is what Jesus exemplified when flipping tables in the temple. That was holy rage. Holy rage is what Jesus displayed when watching religious leaders prioritize rituals and traditions over human needs and necessities. That's holy rage. Holy rage is what Jesus exhibited when his disciples dismissed the children when they were coming to him. When they told them to go away from the Lord. This is holy rage. This was not a reckless anger, but a form of righteous indignation. Righteous indignation. What do you mean? Righteous indignation meaning that meaning we are angry because we have seen or experienced something that is in misalignment with our values. That there is a reason behind our anger, a reason behind our rage. That our rage becomes justified because it is pointed towards the holy and making us align back with the divine, aligning back with the justice of God. And so rage can become holy when it is rooted and pointed toward divine love and a passion for justice and social transformation. That rage can also be holy when it calls us to act and not be complicit in our actions. So, in order for our church, our convention, and all of us to center social justice in our own practices and utilize a holy rage, our theologies must shift to highlight and emphasize that Jesus is on the side of the disinherited and serves a God, and we serve a God of the oppressed. All right. That Jesus is on the side of the disinherited and that we serve a God of the oppressed. Fix it. It's important to understand. It's important to understand this, and that we can use, for example, a case study. When we think about the murder of Breonna Taylor at the hands of law enforcement, serves as a useful example to show how we can shift our preaching and shift our teaching in the fight for justice. I believe that we can do this, and like the death of Breonna Taylor, the crucifixion of Jesus was an act of state-sanctioned violence. Yes. No, she was not born of a virgin, nor claimed equivalence of the holy, but her life was indeed a sacred one that was victim of state-sanctioned violence. What do I mean about state-sanctioned violence? State-sanctioned violence is how harm is produced, how harm is carried out, how harm is sponsored, how harm is promoted by the state, by the empire, by the government, whether through federal institutions, whether through law, Jesus died for us. He was killed because of the actions of the Roman government. Breonna Taylor's body was too broken, was killed specifically because of the historical and perpetual carelessness of the Louisville Metro Police Department. That being the systems and the structures of state-sanctioned violence. These are the systems and structures that perpetuate these things, that allow these things to happen. And so as I continue, I believe it is worth mentioning how intersectionality is, which is a term coined by a scholar named Kimberly Crenshaw, plays a factor into Breonna Taylor's tragedy. Because what we must understand is that not only is this about race, but it is also about gender. That this is important to know because if you recall the time and period in which this took place, the attention around the unjust killing of Breonna Taylor was not made known until the lynching of George Floyd. And even though Taylor's death preceded Floyd's, and due to her gender, Breonna Taylor's murder was less publicized than the murder of George Floyd. And even at one's death, society continues to lean into this idea of sexism and patriarchy. But here it is that Jesus and Breonna Taylor carry similar causes of death, which we refer to today again as state-sanctioned violence. However, in the narrative of the life of Jesus, social justice was actualized as divine justice by way of Jesus' resurrection from the dead. That social justice was actualized as divine justice by way of Jesus' resurrection from the dead. Freddie D. Haynes, pastor of the Friendship West Baptist Church in Dallas, also classmate of our national president, college classmate of our national president, puts it this way, that the resurrection of Jesus is a symbol of protest. It is a symbol of protest, meaning that the fact that Jesus was convicted of crimes he did not commit and was murdered as a result of state-sanctioned violence, his resurrection was a defiance. It was a protest. It was resistance that you cannot keep the oppressed down. It is protest. It is defiance. It is resistance. It was a protest that said, I will again rise. And that ought to be our testimony. And that ought to be our mode of how we operate in this world and how we operate as a black church who is seeking to do justice and divine justice. That we too are symbols of protest. That we will not continue to be harmed. That we will not continue to allow systems to oppress us, that we too are going to do something about it. We're going to say something about it. We're going to strategize about it. Maybe it's time for us to have a hush harbor of our own, to begin to strategize about how we can make the world a better place for black and brown people in the United States of America. Yes. And so, divine justice and Breonna Taylor. Does divine justice, is there not divine justice for Breonna Taylor?